Hello and welcome to my dungeon. The Black Sword hack is an awesome rules-light old-school sword and sorcery RPG, but the core rulebook is also very slim, so it is also light in rules explanation. Let's go through the rules together in detail, while I also add my own interpretation, explanation, rulings and examples. This third part in the series focuses on the magic system. If this interests you and you'd like to see more videos like it, consider leaving a like and a comment below and subscribing to my channel. Now, let's get into the rules.
Now let's get into magic. Dark pacts and other vilenesses. This is a sword and sorcery game, so magic is usually evil, performed by mad, power-hungry wizards, demons summoning sorcerers and warlocks. And we've got a number of magic practices to choose from. Demonic pacts allow you to summon a demon. To invoke a demonic power, roll your doom die, with disadvantage if it isn't the first time you summon a demon on any given day, so this resets after a long rest. If the doom usage die is depleted while invoking a demon, so rolling a 1 or 2 on the d4, then you have to roll on the demon's revenge table. Additionally, if the doom die rolls 1, so 1 on a d6 or 1 on a d4, there also is a side effect depending on the demon. So this is risky business, and you really should think twice before using this. Demon's revenge could be something like you cannot invoke this demon until the next sunrise, but it could also be the demon appears and inflicts you with 3d6 damage before wandering off. That might very well put you helpless on the ground. Also, the pact is broken and you can never invoke that demon again. So, if your doom die is down to a d4, you should try not to summon demons. As a rule, demons are never seen, as they don't need to appear physically to influence their target. This is subtle magic. This is good if you are playing on court intrigue. Demonic magic is insidious, drawing its strength from the weakness of its victims. The name of the summoned demon must be clearly spoken by the warlock. And if you want more pacts, if you didn't start with the warlock background, or if you want more than 2 demons at your service, here is a little table to roll on what kind of quest you have to go on to find the new demon. Killing its master. You find it in the memories of an amnesia chaos priest. Or you find it in the broken sword of a banished Templar, and so on. Then we've got our default demons, like the Demon of Envy. The target tries to take a specific object of your choosing that is in its sight by force if necessary. And on a roll of 1 on the doom die, you also get the side effect. On a roll of 1, the object is a piece of your equipment. So this might generate an excuse to start a fight or get someone arrested, or even start a war if done in the right circumstances. Or get something like Oblivion. The target disappears from everyone's memories for the next d6 hours. And on 1, the demon also steals one of your backgrounds from you. But you will recover that background after a long rest, fortunately. But that might be very powerful if you want, I don't know, assassinate a king. And no one will help him if no one can remember the king. And the game also reminds us that you should be open to players using demonic invocation in a more open-ended way. The above effects are mere guidelines. But the rule of thumb is that demons reinforce or exacerbate the worst traits in their targets. So you might also come up with more demons. So you should encourage your warlocks to use their demons in a creative way. You also get a d20 table to give your demons names, make them a bit more personal. Spirit alliances. The spirit world is one parallel to our own. Demons don't exist there. Spirits represent the raw power of nature. Animals, storms, savagery, they are not aligned with any specific power. You can find law, balance, and chaos in nature. Characters with the shaman background start with 2 spirit alliances. To call upon a spirit, it's very similar to a demon. You roll on your doom day, with disadvantage if it's not the first time. Spirit use is more open-ended than any other type of power. Each spirit has its own guidelines. The goal is to help players make good use of their power without going overboard. So again, you are encouraged to use these powers creatively. These are just examples of what the spirit can do. And we've got spirits like the Ancestor Spirit. Wise counsel of an ancestor gives you advantage on 1 attribute test. You must possess an object that belonged to the ancestor to be able to summon them. And similar to demons, if you roll a 1 when calling on them, something bad happens. On a roll of 1, the ancestor disapproves of your action and gives you disadvantage instead. But at least the spirits don't take revenge on you when you deplete the die. We've got a number of spirits here, and we've got the option of sacrificing a spirit alliance. A shaman can choose to sacrifice its relationship with the spirit to be granted a huge effect. Create a firestorm, create a hurricane, summon a beast lord in the flesh. This is right out of the stories of Elric of Melnibone, who, though he had a pact with a demon lord of chaos, he had ancestral spirit alliances. And during the course of his adventures, he would summon different spirits of nature. But each time he would sacrifice that pact to get a huge effect. Elric would never summon any of his spirit alliances twice. Then, similar to demons, creating a new pact, you get a random table of quest hooks here. You have to go on a quest to form an alliance with a new spirit. For example, close a gate to the spirit world, or free the spirit from another alliance. Sorcery. Sorcery is chaos, using humans as conduits and letting them think they are in control. Of course, bending reality to your will has a price, but you're ready to let others pay it for you. Characters with the forbidden knowledge background start with 4 randomly selected spells. So you can roll a d100 4 times to get one of the 50 spells of the spell list. Casting a spell. Make an intelligence test. If the spell was already cast on the same day, roll with disadvantage. So this is akin to Vankian magic, where you put the spell to memory, and then when you cast it, it slips from your memory. But it's not quite as strict as D&D is with its spell slots. You can still try to invoke the magic, but you will roll with disadvantage. A failure means the spell cannot be cast before the character has taken a long rest. On a critical failure, you'll also have to roll on the Torn Veil table. So these are d6 magic mishaps, from you cannot cast spells until the next sunrise to a tentacled monstrosity appears and takes you to another plane. So even though you can roll with disadvantage, you should think twice before doing it. And you can learn a number of spells equal to your intelligence score. We've got a spell list of 50 spells for you to learn. From Acid Blood, you can turn 3 hit points worth of your blood into acid, does d6 damage, or dissolves an item the size of a small book. Useful when you want to dissolve a log, for example. Or something like Feather Crash, otherwise known as Feather Fall. The target survives an otherwise deadly fall. All their equipment is destroyed though. Or get Steal Life. You steal d6 HP from a target you can touch. Your own HP cannot go beyond its maximum. There's a good selection of spells here, from damage to utility, some useful in combat, some useful outside of combat, one of them more wicked than the other. And these spells function like the spells we are used from other D&D variants. So you can import all of your D&D spells in here. Use spells from Dungeon Crawl Classic or from Worlds Without Number, as long as they fit within the general theme of the game. So they are black magic, they are wicked, they are from the forces of chaos. Then you can put them in here, no problem. Finding and learning new spells, once again, is an adventure. Where is that spells? In the hands of a skeleton, the latest victim of the Fanged Forest. You have to go on a quest similar to other schools of magic. But you also have to make an intelligence roll, and on a failure, you need to find another version of the spell. And on a critical failure, you can never learn this specific spell. This might be a good opportunity to call upon Doom and add that D6 to your intelligence roll. Fairy ties work completely different from any form of magic we had so far. The changeling background lets the players choose 2 ties with the realms of the fairy. New ties can be made during the play at the GM's discretion, though this depends on your story. So this type of magic, even more than the others, depends on the type of campaign you are playing. If the fae, the fairies, the wild hunt don't play a role in your campaign, then choosing the changeling backgrounds, even having this in the game, makes no sense at all. But if it is in the background, then you might have borrowed wisdom. Learn some rudimentary necromancy. You can speak with the dead, provided either their body or soul is nearby. The dead are rarely cooperative. They may demand a price, but you can also attempt to force them to do something or answer a question. Wisdom test required, decreases your doom die. So rather than summoning something or spells, this gives you new special ability. For example, Elfin Secrets. You've learned how speak to birds, make plants obey a one-word command, become invisible to mortals, enthrall a lover, divine one's most secret desire, make non-aggressive mortals tremble with fear. If you use this secret more than once a day, roll your doom. No table in here on quests on how to get this. This hugely depends on the type of game you are playing. Twisted science. Human ingenuity can produce wonderful gadgets and terrifying weapons. The inventor background can make all of this. The rule is, your character makes gadgets and other devices using invention points. You get as many invention points as your intelligence score at the beginning of the week. The cost of each marvel is indicated in brackets after its name. So acid spray will cost 2 of your intelligence, blood tinted spyglass will cost 4. You must have access to a well-equipped workshop to build a marvel. Your invention points reset at the beginning of each week. Maintenance. Subtract half the costs of your gadgets that are still active from the invention points you get each week. The good news is you don't need a workshop to do maintenance work. So if you've built the blood-tinted spyglass before, in the new week it will only cost you 2 of your intelligence points for upkeep. And given that an inventor will probably have a high intelligence score of 13 or more, you can have maybe 3 or 4 of this during a week. Gadget cost. You also need some materials to build your gadget. As a rule of thumb, each marvel requires 20 coins worth of materials per invention point required. So if it requires 2 invention points like acid spray, that would be 40 coins worth of material. Usage die. Unless they are single-use items, your creation comes with a usage die d6. Roll it after each use. or after a fight for weapons. This stuff is unreliable and eventually it will break down or it is depleted, but you never really know when, so it's a usage die. And we've got a sample selection of what you might be able to build, like Resurrection Shot, single use. The target doesn't have to roll on the helpless table, but needs to roll a d20. On a result of 20 they die. So this might save your life, but it might also kill you. But the chance to die is much lower than on the helpless table, where it is 6 in d6. Here it's only 20 on d20. But you also don't have the chance to get one of the other results from the helpless table, like wounded or maimed. Or you might build a terror gas grenade. Roll a d6 for anyone breathing it. 1 to 4, they flee in terror. 5 to 6, they go berserk and add d4 to their damage. Or maybe it's a metal owl. An owl automaton that can follow simple orders up to 6 words. It has 4 HP and can distract a foe but cannot attack. Or how about a mad science battle mech? Creating new objects. Steampunk novels, movies and animes are a great source of twisted science gadgets. Take 19th century and early 20th century items, then add a dash of madness. X-ray goggles, two-way radio communication with the dead, trench lightning gun, flashbang marbles, etc. So the possibilities are endless, and you also don't have to go on a quest to create these new objects. As long as you have a workshop and material, you can create any twisted science marvel. Last but not least, we've got runic weapons, or Excaliburs, or Stormbringers. Runic weapons are very powerful and extremely dangerous. They should be extremely rare, probably no more than 2 in your whole campaign world. These sentient weapons relish the pain they inflict to others, but enjoy the suffering of their wielder even more. From the above, it should be obvious that runic weapons are usually associated with chaos, though exceptions may exist in your world. In Michael Moorcock's Eric of Menebony, for example, there was a sword of chaos, Stormbringer. There was another sword of chaos that I've forgotten the name of, but there was also a sword of order. And these swords and their wielders would oppose each other, and were doomed to fight each other. Legend says that runic weapons are the result of the fusion of a blade and its wielder, often a champion of chaos, law, or balance. Followers of law and balance usually dislike the idea of becoming immortal, even in such a way. So this also tells us that the wielder of a runic weapon will not age, will be immortal, at least until slain in battle. A runic weapon has an intelligence score, so 7 plus 2d6 divided by 2 rounded down. The GM makes an intelligence test for the weapon at the beginning of each session. If successful, the weapon will kill the character if they ever become helpless during that session. At the GM's discretion, the weapon can take the life of an important NPC instead. These weapons are powerful, but they are also extremely dangerous. And that NPC killing part is what usually happened to Elric and his companions whenever Stormbringer made its intelligence test. Rather than example weapons, this gives you random tables and tools to create unique weapons for your campaign world. So that could be the Scimitar of Withering Storm, or the Warhammer of Everlasting Oblivion. All of these weapons can talk to their wielder through telepathy. The GM can do it, but you could also assign a player that can play the role of another player's weapons. They cannot act with the weapon in any way, since it's only a weapon, but they can speak to the wielder now and then. The goal is to make sure that the weapon has a personality that contributes to the story, not to make your friend's life miserable. Keep that in mind. This is a fine balance between being evil and annoying and being a malicious intelligence and getting on the nerves of your friends. In my experience, I have hated every talking sword I've come across. I'd rather leave it in the stone, leave it lying in the pile of treasure. I don't care what the stats are. I hate talking weapons. So make sure to use this responsibly. This is a fine balancing act between playing the evil weapon and being annoying. Now, what can these weapons actually do? The weapon inflicts damage equal to one of the wielder's attributes, which gives a hint about the weapon's personality, and which is super powerful. Normally you do d6 damage, but now you do 10 damage, 13 damage, 15 damage with each strike, and the weapon also gets one of these abilities. When an enemy is killed with the weapon, then maybe it devours their soul, maybe it absorbs their memory, grants d6 HP back to the wielder, turns their body to ashes, their face appears as a tattoo on the wielder's body, or makes the victim's body explode messily. Some of these I would combine. Instead of just devouring their souls, I would devour the souls and grant d6 HP back to the wielder. Or when it is absorbing the memories, the faces of the victims also appear as a tattoo on the wielder's body. So combine something that is useful with something that is just a fluff effect. The weapon can be found. You can't start with the runic weapons. These can only be acquired through a mighty quest. These are the most powerful artifacts in your campaign world if you include these. So they might be in the dead hand of a king, maybe in the living hand of the king, and you have to slay him first and take it from his cold dead hands. Might be inside a maelstrom, in a forbidden museum. These weapons are so powerful and influential in the eternal struggle of chaos, balance, and order, that if you include them, they inevitably become a huge part of your game, of your character, and of your campaign. So, as you can see, there's quite the number of very different magic that you can put in your campaign world, but the rules urge you to use this responsibly. Don't just put all of this in your campaign world. If you use only a couple of them, your campaign will be more strongly themed. If you put all of them in there, your campaign will be all over the place, and none of them will get the focus in the story that they deserve. Especially the fairy ties that only make sense if the fae, the fairy, the wild hunt exist in your world and are part of your campaign. And the runic weapons that are a huge part of your campaign if you include them should be chosen with care. Let me give you a few example combinations of magics and example worlds. If you put demonic pacts and sorcery into your game, you will have created a world that is similar to Robert E. Howland's Hyperborea, the world of Conan the Barbarian, where a sorcerer would summon demons and maybe have a spell or two. If you combine spirit alliances, sorcery, and runic weapons, you will have a world similar to Elric of Melnibone and Stormbringer. Because, as I said, interestingly enough, Elric didn't summon demons as much as he would summon spirits of nature. Fairy ties could very well stand on its own, but it would also combine well with runic weapons. And then you get a game that's more out of European folklore, and that might combine well with the folklore bestiary. But I imagine there could be a fun campaign to be had if you use fairy ties and twisted science, and the ongoing conflict between nature and the Fae and industry, civilization and twisted science could be one of the main themes of your campaign. Or you use twisted science and sorcery, and you've got something like Jack Vance's Dying Earth, where only 100 spells are left to humanity. In the crumbling cities of the Dying Earth, you might find flying cars, or maybe you raise artificial humans inside of incubation chambers in your mad science laboratory. This finishes today's video of magic. I wish thee safe travels, dreamers, until we shall meet again.